This is the Energy to Thrive podcast, episode number 010 with guest Mariza Snyder. All links and resources you hear in this episode can be found by going to jenniferpowder.com/010.
Welcome to the Energy to Thrive podcast with weight loss and fitness expert Jennifer Powder. Join her each week as she delves into the world of health and what it really takes to create true transformation in your life, both physical and emotional. Through her messages and interviews with special guests, you'll be inspired to live healthier, happier, and hotter lives. Here's your host, a woman who's real, totally transparent, and gets to the heart of the matter, Jennifer Powder.
Hey everybody, so I am so excited to introduce my next guest to you on the podcast, or if you're watching on the video, you're going to be in for a treat today. So Dr. Mariza Snyder, we met at a conference a couple years ago and got to connect again last year, and I absolutely knew without a doubt that she needed to be on the Energy to Thrive podcast. Not only is she super beautiful, she is also super smart, and she graduated from chiropractic college back in 2008, cum laude, I hope I said that right, and has a background in biochemistry, certifications in nutrition and aromatherapy. And what I know from talking with Mariza is, she is so passionate about sharing her expertise with women around holistic medicine and nutrition to really help them up-level their health and their energy levels. And so I just want to say thank you for joining me today, and I cannot wait to dive in with you.
Oh, me too, Jennifer. It's such a pleasure to be able to connect with you today. And I felt the same way when we met. There was definitely an instant magic.
Yeah, it's fun. And we're lucky to be able to, get to know each other in a personal space too, because I wouldn't have known about your work otherwise. I would have taken me probably those random connections to find you. And what I think is going to be so interesting, especially for the listeners tuning in, is we were just saying before the show started that it is just the norm for women to be walking around like feeling completely a lack of energy, like so depleted, and that somehow they tell themselves, well, that's just the way it is. That's what's normal when I'm a mom and I'm busy. And you were just saying, yeah, it's so not true. So let's go into that.
Absolutely. Well, I think what happens is I always think of it as whispers, right? Your body is whispering at you. Because even when I was in my early 20s, or it was in early 20s, mid to late 20s, I kind of got a head start. I was like super overachiever. I was always running around. I was always going from here to there. And I grew up as a woman that I served best being the most productive to my community and being the most productive to the people that I cared about most. And if I wasn't showing up for those people, even early on, it's kind of how I was trained or taught that I wasn't a good enough woman. It was connected to my worthiness. And so sure enough, in my mid to late 20s, everything came to a screeching halt for me. And there were signs. There was migraines. I was getting sick a lot. I wasn't sleeping very well. I was putting on weight. I was having mood issues. I was irritable. I was tired all day. These things, but it was over time that they happened.
Yeah.
But I was so grateful that I kind of had that major wake up call.
So
yeah.
Let's just stop right there, because you said something really key, and I want to make sure people heard it. And that is, you got so much of your value from what you did. Right? That your worth was driven not by simply who you were or how much you loved. It was by being accomplishment driven and productivity driven. And I so find that to be this like addictive belief system that women have cultivated for themselves. I'm not worthy or value, and you don't even know you're doing it, right? You don't even, it's such a subconscious thing.
Absolutely. I had no idea that was what was going on with me.
Okay. So you were saying that those whispers were coming then?
So yes, so I had whispers coming in. And again, you don't listen to them because it really does feel par for the course. It feels like, well, this is just kind of this is kind of what has to happen in order for me to continue to produce or to create or to take care of the people in my life, to show up the way that I'm supposed to, although I was really showing up as an empty vessel. And then ultimately what happened is I showed up for an empty vessel for me. And so blessed that this happened earlier on in my life, because, when things come to a screeching halt like that, you have to reevaluate.
So was there a pivotal moment that defines that screeching halt awareness? Like, for me, I remember that turnaround moment so clearly. What was it for you?
I think for me, what the moment was I was trying to think. For me, it was, and we were talking a lot, I know this is a big part of you. I think for me, even in my mid to late 20s, but a part of that was weight was coming on for absolutely no reason. But my PMS and my hormones were so out of control. I felt like I was raging, and my migraines had come on pretty strong. So it was like a lot of different symptoms that culminated at once. I realized that something could not be right.
Yeah.
Something wasn't right with my body at that point. So I wasn't like I had like, I work with so many women who it's a panic attack, or they're completely bone crushing fatigued for no reason, or it's an autoimmune disease like thyroiditis or Hashimoto's. Luckily for me, it wasn't a very significant turning point in terms of a condition.
Well, but it could have become that way if you didn't pay attention.
Absolutely.
Right? So
I guaranteed I would have Hashimoto's and thyroid burnout and everything else.
You just chose to listen
Yes.
and make a change. So what did you start to do?
So I started checking in. I started doing some gut checking because there was a lot of things in my life that were absolutely not serving me. I wasn't joyful. I wasn't happy. I wasn't even paying attention. I was like a robot, but like a robot zombie. So I don't know if there's robot zombies out there, but if there was, I would be it.
Which is, by the way, you guys, if you can't see Mariza on the video because you're listening to the podcast, like you would just find this so hard to believe, right? Because, and especially when I meet you, right? There's no way I could have imagined that you would have existed that way. And that's what I think is so hopeful for people, is that there were people once in possibly the space that a listener is in right now who got out of it. And that's what we need to share is, first of all, it's not normal. Your body is giving you signals and symptoms and whispers and sometimes a 2 or 4 across the head to wake up. And that once you choose to do it, you can really have amazing change in your life. And we started off talking about, well, like, why doesn't the quick fix work? And why does it actually require establishing a health foundation?
Absolutely. And a couple of those key things in terms of health foundation is, one, foundationally, you've got to dive in emotionally. You got to really ask yourself, what is this serving me? Is this serving my passion? Is this serving my joy every single day? Because we only get one opportunity to do this. And we only get one opportunity to do this in a really just abundant way. And so a lot of things had to go. Relationships had to go, things that I had put onto my plate, projects that weren't serving me or I didn't have joy in them, they had to go. I'd have projects that I thought that it would continue to further my career or continue to further me to get into graduate school. But I realized that I didn't enjoy doing them and they had to let go. And so then, and a big part of that, and we're talking about foundational, is what was I feeding myself? Literally, in terms of nutrition. And what I looked at is I was eating horribly. I didn't know any better. I was fresh out of a couple of years out of college. I was living off of diet sodas to get through the day and coffee. I was eating horrible food choices. A lot of it was processed foods. And I was using oftentimes wine and alcohol to fall asleep at night because I felt so wired and tired.
So you've just touched on two core capacities of energy to thrive. What is nutrition and emotions? And you just said that basically if you don't pay attention to either one of those, you are skipping the foundational building steps that we need to implement. And I just want to wholeheartedly support that, because so many people, and this podcast obviously is towards for women to listen to get that. You can't just focus on all of this external stuff. You can't go buy new furniture and hope that it's going to help you feel better or lose weight, right? Like, it might be a nicer thing to look at, which might bring you joy, but we often do so many empty things in our life trying to make things better without being willing to look in.
You can't just bully your way through.
So how
that
do you
was my
start?
Big lesson.
You cannot bully your way through. I just thought if I kept pushing,
we can't just keep pushing. At some point, there's a breaking point.
Why are we taught that, do you think? I really believe we've been taught to it's such a masculine way to live. Not that I know a ton about masculine, feminine energy, but we are often, high-achieving women often are driven by the push psychology. If we can only make money if we work really hard. We're only valuable if we do a ton of shit. Where does that come from, do you think?
It's far deeper than the lineage, but it definitely came from my lineage. My mom was very much that woman, and she was a single mom with 2 girls. And I remember I launched a summit back in August, the Women's Balance Summit, because this is such an important topic for me. Yeah. And I share about one of my favorite terms is coined by Libby Weaver, which is rushing women syndrome. My mom literally was the epitome of the rushing woman, and I watched her production. I remember growing up, seeing her come picking us up because she was a single mom, so she worked, and I could hear her from the street, from the car, with her heels, her power walk, her power suit. I could hear the keys jingling. She was on the move to come and get us so that we could get out of there. And I remember when I was growing up, I wanted to be my mom. I wanted to be this super incredibly productive woman, super busy, rocking the hot high heels, business suit. I don't know what it was that I wanted that so bad. And it's really what I had to let go of that. But I didn't let go of that until I realized it wasn't serving me. And surely it wasn't serving my mom. I've been my mom's core practitioner for many years now. And a big part of that journey has been her navigating through perimenopause and menopause. Right. And, having to shift a lot of things there because it wasn't, she was falling apart. She was having a really hard time in terms of anxiousness, depression, weight, energy. I mean, every symptom under the sun when it came to perimenopause and menopause. And it all related back to the lifestyle that she was living. Oftentimes it doesn't happen in the 20s where everything kind of falls apart. It usually starts to happen in our 40s and in our 50s.
Totally. You can get away with a lot. And often I think our body is set up to handle so much stuff. And there's almost like, I swear to God, I'm sure, like so many of my clients, I feel like it's this awakening in late 30s, early 40s when all of a sudden this ability to have time for yourself has decreased so much with either having a husband and children and a career and volunteering and maybe even taking care of parents that there's like, I can't do it like this anymore. And sometimes we feel that, we know it, and then we dumb it down and numb it by drinking wine or whatever it is that we do at night to just ignore.
Or medication.
Medication, yes, antidepressants, anti-anxiolytics, whatever, because we go to the doctor and it says, oh, well, you know what, you just need to get through this time. I'll give you a little something. Mm-hmm. So where do we start? Like when a woman comes to you in perhaps exactly that just state, overweight, busy, feeling productive is the way that she gets worse, maybe disconnected from her partner, on a couple, say 2 to 3 different medications, knows that she's drinking wine, probably knows it's a bit too much, not alcoholic, but dependent, or uses it to relax a lot, not eating well, coffee all day, surviving on salad to try and lose weight. What do they do?
Yes. I think the first step, at least, and you may hopefully you agree with me there, that this first step for me, and at least it was for me and so many of the women I work with, is self-awareness. Yeah. Is starting to recognize that these little messages, that these little whispers or symptoms are definitely a call to action.
Totally. Oh, I support you totally. I 100% agree.
Yeah, because I have to continue to gut check. My default mode is to go back into rushing women syndrome. Yeah. I know better, but there are moments where we have a lot of things on the table, and I've got to go back and check in. I'm like, is this serving? How, why did we bring this on? And am I sleeping well enough? Do I have the energy? Because when you become not only self-aware and even have body awareness, you recognize when things aren't working properly. You really know when you're not feeling well. But then we're talking about that. So that's the first step. And I am such a major proponent for self-care rituals and self-love rituals.
Let's pause right there because that's a topic that we hear. So often we hear in the personal development world, which I consider I'm in, but I do it through weight loss, helping women achieve that, but then diving into some of the stuff we're talking about. The words abundance, self-love, self-care, so many times you hear it and you're like, I don't have time for that crap, right? There's such a resistance around it.
Yes.
And so I want to talk about that. And there was something else you said. I guess it'll come back to me, but can we just break that down? So yes. Because often it has like a new agey sort of.
Yeah. I am not about the new agey stuff. So it doesn't work for me. I've told you who I am and you kind of get a sense, and I'm always riding that line and taking care of myself. So when it comes to those rituals, again, we have to take a moment to pause. And so for me, what I do is I wake up every single morning and I have a morning ritual. And the reason for that is that if I don't set the tone for the day accordingly, chaos ensues. Other people, it's either their needs, because that's ultimately what happens for us as women, is we are serving other people's needs. Well, what about your needs first? Like I made a vital mistake this morning. I made a vital mistake as I'm going through a couple of my rituals, which by the way are only 15 minutes. And argue with me that you don't have 15 minutes, right? So 15 minutes, and in the middle of my
many people will say that they don't.
Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, you do.
Yeah.
So my phone usually stays away from me in those first 15 minutes because the moment I open my phone, it opens up the world to everybody else's needs. And sure enough, I had received a text message that I shouldn't have read because it ultimately threw my whole morning off. It topsy-turvy, somebody's negative crap vomited all over me in my text message. I shouldn't have opened it. And if I'd taken the time to take care of myself first, I would have been more prepared for that. Somebody else is vomiting on me, because that's what happens. People are ready to vomit on us at any given time.
And it's a boundary thing too. So this is what I was going to say. You said self-awareness. So number one, you cannot change what you're not aware of. And that is the key there. If you can't change something, and that's often why we go through our journey or our challenges or our struggles, is because there's a wake-up call trying to happen and we haven't been paying attention. And so often those challenges get bigger, right? So we wake up. Then what I love about this too, about the self-care ritual, and I don't care if anybody's listening who's like, ritual, schmitual. The reason we have to be conscious, I think, about developing these rituals is because we've been operating by default crappy habit for so long that we'll go back to that if we don't have something else to lean into.
Absolutely. You can only serve for an empty vessel for so long.
Yeah.
You can't do it. That's what the problem is. The reason why women are coming to me, I'm like, well, if always the question is that, do you feel that if you continue at this rate that it's going to get better?
And what do they say? They know.
And no, it's not. And so, and those are always those qualifying questions. Like, well, do you feel like something needs to shift? Yes, something needs to shift. Okay, here's the game plan. So 15 minutes in the morning, for me, it's got to be gratitude journaling. It's really hard to be a grouchy pants or whatever it may be, or come in with a negative mindset, which fuels so much of our inability to have that energy. So gratitude journaling for 5 minutes. I love using essential oils with that, like a peppermint and a wild orange, or a peppermint and a grapefruit, because they're instant energizers. They literally energize the brain.
We're going to get to a really favorite part of this interview. I have a feeling, because I'm literally super curious to know and want to share it. So in my experience with my clients, the years I've been doing this, is so many times the quick fix has been something that's medicated. Right? So something that's been prescribed, medicated, full of synthetic crap. And I know, and what I find so interesting about you is I know that you use natural essential oils to help with some of the foundation health building and the routines. And like, I think I can't remember who it was I texted, somebody that we probably, I don't know if it wasn't you, but anyways, I was having trouble sleeping, and she's like, oh, put 2 drops of lavender on your pillow. And I was like, that sounds amazing. How does that work? I don't even care. I'll try it.
It's easy.
And it smells good. Yeah.
It smells good. Absolutely. My energy boosters, because we are still looking for a quick fix. We are still absolutely looking for something that's going to shift. The thing I love about essential oils, and I use them throughout my entire morning ritual and throughout the day, is they bridge the gap to the healthy lifestyle habits and the foundations that we want. A lot of us are not exercising. What do we use to get, like this morning? You almost had to pay me to go to the gym this morning. You almost had to pay me. I was like, I don't want to go. But I went. I go all the time, but I don't know what it was about today. I've got some deadlines coming up that could have been it. And the thing that got me there was peppermint oil. I just breathed in some peppermint. I put a little bit of peppermint oil in my water, and immediately, whatever that was, it just went away. I got in the car. I got to the gym. I did my workout, burned like 600 calories. And so, I love using that as bridging the gap to getting me into that habit, because we know the habits that we're supposed to. So the foundationals, right? It's good nutrition, so eating the color of the rainbow. It's sleep. It's reducing stress and making sure that we're managing those moments that are overwhelming. It is exercise, and it's reducing toxic load. Those are the foundations. Bam.
Okay. So I'm going to put you on the spot right now. Are you ready for
it?
Okay.
Sure.
So I want to run through, I'm going to just think of myself, and I'm going to think of some of my clients that I've spoken to already today. And because I'm always like, I feel like I need a cheat sheet. Like, I feel like I have such limited understanding of the role of where essential oils could play a role in my life. Like, somebody said to me, oh, I think sage oil helps with headaches. Maybe it was peppermint. I forget. This is why I want to ask you. So, because I know that there's a lot of over-the-counter products being consumed by women. Tylenol, Tylenol, ibuprofen, like you name it. There's a cold and flu medication.
digestive medication, pain medication, headaches.
Yeah.
It's all specifically targeted for all of those issues that are related to the fact we're not taking care of ourselves.
Yes. So granted, we have to start with like some of the basic things you said, like eating better, getting the sleep that we need, being proactive with how we're dealing with stress, which for so many of us, we tolerate so much stuff in our life. And that's another thing to learn how to do is set healthy boundaries and make yourself a priority. But for people listening right now, if we could go through like a quick rundown on a cheat sheet, really, of like, if I can't sleep, what would be the essential oil? Can we do that?
Yeah. Let's start. Yeah. I can run through all of those. So let's say it is energy, because energy is the thing that everybody wants. It's like the elusive in the sky butterfly that you can't catch.
So it's 3:00, and normally my habit would be like, it's gonna be like pick up kids, activities, dinner. I need to go get coffee.
Right? Go to Starbucks, go get your iced coffee, drink your Red Bull, or maybe a little piece of chocolate, right? Because you're justifying, you're like, I got to get through the rest of the day. What am I going to do? And that used to be my number one go-to, or those were my options that do not serve. And so I always say that my Energizer bunnies are orange and peppermint. And it's because of the monoterpenes and alcohol constituents in these particular two particular oils. They will shoot right into the olfactory bulb, into the limbic brain, and it will turn on those dopamine and serotonin in a really wonderful and supportive way. So it's not going to rev up your adrenals. It's not going to have you dump a ton of cortisol into the body. This is going to give you the energy that you're looking for. And you literally just do 2 drops. I have a peppermint
orange and peppermint. See, I told you, beautiful and smart, right? Like this is exactly, we don't want to have the hormonal biochemical crap storm that chocolate and coffee
is going to create. And guess what? That's a cycle. You're literally feeding the most vicious cycle of them all.
Yes. Okay. That's awesome. So that's energy. Okay. And we'll have this in show notes, you guys. If you want to come back down and grab some of these key things, you can come back to that page. What about headaches?
Yeah. So anytime you're dealing with stress, everything that we're dealing with, I have never met a woman who's not dealing with headaches or neck and muscle shoulder tension, right? So wintergreen, peppermint, those are 2 great ones. Those would be my go-tos, and you would just layer them on. Honestly, peppermint. If there is one oil that you keep on you at all times, it's peppermint oil. We don't go anywhere without that oil because it literally has 100 different functions for the human physiology.
Like that's amazing, right? But no, we're given prescriptions instead. Okay.
Right, it's so awful. So around wherever the headache is, for me, it's always occipital because it's always related to those angry neck muscles, and it's always stress. It's always that tension, right? So I just put peppermint on the back of the neck, right here, anytime that I'm feeling that tension, especially when you're working like this on your computer all day.
Yeah.
Ugh, right.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. So this another great one. What about, sleep? We touched on sleep becomes an issue for a lot of people, often because they're not exercising, they're drinking stuff at night, like booze. They've had too much caffeine during the day, and then their mind just doesn't shut off.
Mental chatter, worry, anxiousness, depression, all of it. It's just playing into that. The power combo is going to be lavender and vetiver. So you can have it in a spritzer. You can diffuse it. So I have you can't see it, it's my little diffuser. It sits right next to our bed. And 2 hours before bedtime, we need to start shutting those things off, right? Wow. And so we start diffusing 2 drops of those 2 oils. If you don't want vetiver, cedarwood is your another option. And for women in particular, because clary sage is such a wonderful oil for hormones and reducing stress, lavender and clary sage. Those are your 3 options.
Amazing. Okay, what else am I missing here? Are there any other kind of chronic things that we're experiencing every day that, often we're going to be reaching for the unhealthy thing for, that there's a better option?
So digestion,
Thank
right?
you. That was the one.
Often we're eating foods that completely inflame us, right? Yeah. And oftentimes because we're on the go or we don't know. We have no idea that dairy is messing with us. Yeah. Well, maybe we do, but we're just like, I'm going to ride that line. Yeah. So your go-tos are going to be peppermint, lo and behold, right? So diluted and literally over the stomach. The great thing about oils is when they go onto the skin topically, they go into the system within 30 seconds upon contact.
So that's what I just wanted to ask you too. So right now we've talked about topical application in smelling, and putting in aromatic water, so the aromatic sense of it, and then also putting drops in water. How do you know which one to do?
It just really depends on the situation. So when I say topical, anything mood related or related to how you want to feel is going to be aromatic, right?
Okay.
Connecting right into that limbic brain, that survival part of the brain is where we house our memory, where we house trauma, where we house emotion, and it's directly connected to the hypothalamus, which is controlling all of the hormones that go everywhere into the body. So if you want to be able to reshift and calibrate what happens, especially with the neuroendocrine system, essential oils are some of the most powerful constituents that you can use for making that change. I'm working with women right now who are dealing with loss and tragedy, and there's oils that really help people overcome those things. So digestion really quickly. So ginger, fennel, and peppermint are going to be your go-tos. You think about ginger, eating ginger root, or fennel too, fennel tea. These are all great things, but topically, instead of it taking 30 minutes to 45 minutes, we're talking about less than 2 minutes.
Wow.
So just layering over each other. Again, stress. Stress is a major one. My go-to blend, I have a really powerful go-to de-stressing blend. It will lower stress within a matter of 30 seconds. And it's 2 drops of lavender, 2 drops of bergamot that's known as the self-love and self-acceptance oil. I love bergamot. It's a heart-centered oil. And then frankincense, because frankincense is just really wonderful. It crosses over the blood-brain barrier because of all those cycloterpenes. So that's my stress buster blend. I use it probably at least one time a day, I'll admit.
So do you actually walk around with like the stuff in your purse? You do.
Absolutely.
You're like a walking.
I have my emergency stash. I call it my emergency stash. I keep 10 oils on me at all time, and 5 of those oils are emotional oils.
So I'm going to ask you just practical questions now, because I've got a really nice purse. Like, how do you know that this stuff isn't going to leak and stuff like that? Like, that's what people worry about.
Yeah, I have a little pouch. I've been carrying them around for years. Yeah. And the bottles, they're screwed on tight, but they never leak.
Yeah.
So no worries. I also have a really nice
I know you do. Well, and it's so funny because often at the conference, the one I'm thinking of that we go to is like, you talk about something you're feeling and literally somebody will literally have something for you on hand in their bag, right?
Absolutely.
And not once has anybody said, oh, you should just go get a Tylenol. Like, not once. And what I like about this is I think that so many times women are curious about wanting to get this information, like me. Like, I consider myself smart and like fairly in the know around holistic and natural and alternative therapies. I'm totally wired that way. It's not that I don't like Western medicine. I think there's a time and a place for it. However, I think it has totally overridden our health system, and that's another conversation. So I'm always looking for other ways to support myself and my clients, and yet often don't have enough time to do the research behind it. So talking to people like you with your background, education, experience, it's so helpful.
Right? Nutrition was the number one thing. If I had to name one big game changer in my life that made all of the difference in the world, foundationally, it's what we put in our bodies. Yeah. The second biggest thing that happened for me was essential oils. To be honest with you, I come from a lineage of hormone chaos and production, which literally is like the perfect storm. So for us, my whole family uses oils, and it's because of me. They've made such an impact in our life, and I particularly reach for them for emotional support, mood support, because that's ultimately what's driving so much of our behavior. Yeah. And so that's been the biggest key. And like I said, when I'm out in public or I'm with strangers, I see we struggle and we suffer. And if I can pull out an oil and shift the mood in somebody in less than 15 seconds, I am going to do that. I'm like the little oil fairy.
So do you ever, what do you say when you encounter skeptics? Because I'm sure people listening are like, yeah.
I've never encountered skeptics. Yeah. Honestly, if it's on the spot and someone is struggling and I say, hey, I've got a solution for you right now. Are you open to trying it? No one's ever said no.
Yeah, because when you've got a problem, you're willing to help try anything to solve it.
If it's got no side effects and it's only side benefit, it's worth trying. And if it is an oil that all you have to do is put it on or breathe it in, and it takes 10 seconds of your time, they're open. Yeah. They're totally down to try it.
Mariza, this is so cool. So it is within my total duty to share you with the world here. So how can people find you? It's one thing to listen to the podcast, but it's really nice to have the link to get from more information if they want to learn more. What would be the best place for people to go, our listeners, to go today?
So clearly a good place to go is our website. So drmariza.com, drmariza.com. But also we're going to have a really amazing link. I have a vitality bundle that's got my self-care rituals, that has my energy guide, and has my go-to favorite matcha green smoothies. I'm such a matcha girl.
Oh yeah,
and I
that's
have a
another
matcha
conversation.
book.
We'll have to have you back to talk about
And
that.
so, and we love putting in our green smoothies. Probably one of my number one habits, foundational habits in the morning, is a green smoothie that carries 10 to 12 servings of fruits and vegetables in it. Talk about getting your energy. I mean, coffee, Red Bulls, sugar, be gone when you have such a nutritionally dense habit. So that little bundle, we're going to give it to you. I don't know the link 100%, but
that's okay.
I know that we'll
put it. Yeah, it'll be on show notes. It's hard for people to write stuff down while they're listening, anyways.
Absolutely.
But
and we have a brand new ebook that we may add. It's my top 10 essential oils that go in my purse.
Oh,
so yeah, because
exactly
people always want to know, well, what do you keep in your purse? Like, what is it that you have to have with you?
Yeah, it's exactly what I asked you. Well, because you want to know, right? When you see somebody like you who has gone through the rushing woman syndrome, who, has the education, this is who I work with: smart, driven, achieving, high achieving women who don't want to be stuck feeling like they lack energy and overweight and frumpy and, burnt out. No one, when I ask people how
Nobody
they want to
wants
describe
that.
No one says that that's how they want to feel, but we'll tolerate it. And I know, because I did too. It took getting mono at like 36 for me to recognize that there was some big changes that needed to happen. Okay, well, you're amazing. I'm conscious of time. We're at our 30 minutes here. And for everybody who's tuned in, thank you so much for joining us in the Energy to Thrive podcast. Dr. Mariza Snyder is amazing, as you can tell. And come back to the page for show notes. You can grab all of her links. Dr. Mariza, thank you so much for being with me.
Oh my goodness, Jennifer, it was such a pleasure. This was so much fun to be able to connect with you. And I just, you are just everyone who gets to connect onto this podcast. They're so blessed to get to share in your wisdom.
Oh, well, it's been harder in some of it, but thank you. And that's the thing I want to share, right? Like, we all go through our stuff and then sometimes continue to go through it, but you get through to the other side. So I'm going to be talking to you after the show to learn more about essential oils. So just stand by. And bye, everybody. Thanks for tuning in today. Make sure you catch the next show coming up next week. Bye for now.